Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of Wild Warriors. Today, we developed into the complex field of the animal habitat conservation and the impact of human activities on these vital ecosystems. I'm your host, Paulina, and we have a diverse group of experts to share their insights to the important issues.
Check out the progress on this Overcup Oak Savanna restoration that we started last year. Last summer, this was a closed canopy forest with a lot of large willow oaks that were dying due to flooding the years before. So instead of letting those trees fall down and flood and run into the fences, we came in here and did a timber harvest. Looking at aerial photos from the 40s, you could see that this place used to be an Overcup Oak Savanna. It had spaced out Overcup oaks that were sprawled out. They were growing with huge canopies, meaning that they had been growing out in the open for a long time. So we went through here and we flagged all of the young Overcup oaks, and we flagged other desirable trees, and then we removed the trees that shouldn't be here or were dying or were unhealthy. By the way, look at the stump sprouts getting hammered by deer. We also saved desirable shrubs like possum halls and green hawthorns. But check out the difference just 1 year of sunlight on the ground makes. Tons of food for wildlife, tons of cover, and the Overcup oaks are starting to sprawl out again. This is what happens when you aren't mowing every square inch of your property. This is Rudbeckia fulgida, also known as black-eyed Susan or orange coneflower, and this is in my backyard. For the past 5 years, all I've been doing on the back 2/3 of my property is mowing the border and mowing trails throughout so me and my family can walk and enjoy it. And since I've been doing that, this orange coneflower has just taken over the wet areas of my pasture. These are the trails I mow. I use these as fire lines and also walking trails. And a lot of people would say those are way too aggressive. They're taking over your property and your neighbor's property where they aren't mowing. And my answer to that is sometimes aggressive natives are a good thing. They're playing a role in the ecosystem. These are great for pollinators, and they're also providing seeds for songbirds and other native wildlife species. And there are actually other native species, blue mistflower and ironweed. But you know what's aggressive if you mow it? Non-native turf grasses like bahia, Bermuda, fescue. And do they allow any native species to grow in here? Nope, and they do nothing for wild. This is what America's grasslands are supposed to look like. Not like this. These are non-native pasture grasses, and they don't provide any cover for wildlife. Seriously, this is way taller than most people's lawns, and how do we expect them to find cover in this when they're used to having this? This is what most people would get if they stopped mowing their lawns. Just invasive plants going to seed, outcompeting native species. When this is what we need, things like eastern gama grass and greasy grass. These aren't just providing cover, they're providing food for wildlife. These tall grasses are what built America's prairies. And look, underneath them, you have these shady areas, these trails where wildlife hang out and nest and raise their young. True conservation means getting these places back to what they're supposed to be. And you hear those insects? That's food for wildlife. That's what your yard is supposed to sound like. So take a section of your yard that you don't use and help us bring back America's grasslands. This used to look like this, an array of non-native turf grasses. But I killed all those and turned it back into what it's supposed to be. So what's it supposed to be? Well, in my part of Alabama and most of the Southeast, we had prairies. And that's exactly what these are, prairie plants. I collected the seeds of all these within a mile of my house. This is Coreopsis, that's Downy pagoda, yarrow, clustered mountain mint, slender mountain mint, bergamot, tons of gray-headed coneflowers, all this butterfly milkweed, rattlesnake master, dense blazing star, wild white indigo. I collected this from seeds from a prairie that is now a housing development. And just one seed head of this gray-headed coneflower will have hundreds of seeds, and there's literally thousands of seed heads right here. And this is going to feed a lot of birds. And when we lose our native plant diversity, we lose wildlife, we lose insects. This is their habitat. It's not the rocks and the logs. It's the native plants that make up their ecosystem. I know it's the normal thing to do, but we can't have an entire property of this anymore. It's not going to cut it. And is this worth losing wildlife? You see this pasture behind me? This is what a field of North American grasses looks like. This entire field is big blue stem, a North American grass, not a European grass, not an Asian grass. This is what the grasses in North America look like. This is what fed bison. And this is what could be in North America's pastures. But we overgrazed it. The first thing cattle eat when they get into a pasture are the native grasses, because these roots go deep down in the soil. I'm talking 8 to 15 foot into the ground, and they're bringing up nutrients that other grasses like fescue can't bring up. And once they're overgrazed, they get outcompeted by non-native turf grasses like Bermuda and Bahia. And that's where all the quail went. With the native grasses goes quail and other wildlife that depend on these grasses for cover. It's time to get back to North American grasses and change the way we graze in North America. It's going to benefit cattle production and it's going to benefit wildlife.
Hi, I am Valeria, a wildlife biologist with a passion for preserving our planet's biodiversity. I fully agree with habitat conservation because it's our responsibility to protect endangered species, maintain the natural balance of ecosystems, and prevent further loss of habitat.
Hi everyone, my name is Juan Diego. I'm the environment economist. While I am understanding the importance of conservation, I believe we need to weigh the cost of benefits carefully. Sometimes conservation efforts can be deeply already limited resources and united economic consequences.
Hi, I'm Joaquin, an environmental activist. I am very supportive of habitat conservation. By conserving habitat, we not only protect species but also maintain the fragile life web that sustains us. We must prioritize the long-term health of our planet over short-term interests.
Hi, I'm Santiago, a representative of the local farming community. While I respect the need for conversation, it is important to strike a balance. Sometimes a strict conversation measure can hinder our ability to provide for our families and communities.
Thank you all for introducing yourself and sharing your intel and thoughts. Found out your reasons, Valeria, and you explain why did you support habitat conservation.
Absolute. The conservation of specific endangered species and maintenance of natural ecosystems ensure the well-being of our planet's biodiversity. By disappearance of species upsets the balance of nature and can lead to unintended consequences for other species and even human populations.
Santiago, back to you. Can you explain to us why you support habitat conservation?
Of course, our world is a complex tapestry of life and each species plays a unique role. By conserving the habitats, we secure the resources provided by the ecosystem: clean water, air, and fertile soil. Neglecting conservation can lead to irreversible damage affecting all living things, including us.
Joaquin, you have a different point of view. Can you explain your reservation about habitat conservation?
Sure. Conservation efforts often require significant financial investments. While the aim is not noble, we must ask ourselves if these resources could be allocated more efficiently elsewhere, such as fighting poverty or improving education. It is to find the right balance between economic growth and environmental protection.
Absolutely. While I recognize that the importance of protecting the environment, we must also ensure that the humans' needs are met. It's essential to find a balance between conservation and livelihoods. Strict regulations can hinder our abilities provide our families, which is a real concern to many in our community.
Thank you all for sharing your ideas. This is just the beginning of thoughtful conversation worth continuing to explore. In summary, It is clear the impact of human activities on wildlife habitat on multifaceted issues that requires careful consideration of ecological of human factors. Let us continue engage in meaningful dialogue as we work towards the harmonious coexistence between humans and the natural world. Thanks for joining us with the Wild Warriors episodes. Stay tuned for more in-depth discussion about conservation, biodiversity, and the future of our planet. Remember that everyone's voice counts in your journey to protect and preserve our beautiful world. Until the next time. Bye.